All right, everyone. Today I wanted to go through a list of things that you should never do in Raid Shadow Legends under any circumstance, and I wanted to start off with what is easily going to be the number one mistake that you could make. This could seriously end up crippling your account later on, and I know it might seem crazy to those of you guys who've been playing the game for a while, but this is still something that I see people messaging me about, and something that people are thinking about doing even today. And this is, under no circumstances, you never want to use legendaries as food or rank up materials. Just don't. The answer is no. You don't want to do it. Now, I know there's going to be champions that you want to get to 6-star and level 60 as soon as possible, and using legendaries as food or rank up materials because they're considered to be, a 5-star or rank 5 food right off the bat. I know it might seem like a shortcut that is worth it, but it is not. Trust me. And there's a few things important to note about this. First of all, if it's a bad legendary, I know that's the first thing. What if it's just a bad legendary? Should I use it as food? Well, Plarium has been doing a lot of champion rebalancing in the last patches, and it seems like they've actually been throwing this into each of their patches that they have announced to be coming out about once a month. Is there's a list of champions that were considered to be not super great, and now after these buffs that they've been giving them, some of these champions go from being some of the worst in the game to surprisingly some of the best in the game. And you never know if some of those really bad legendaries that you have that you're thinking about using as food, you never know when they might get added to that list of champions that's going to get rebalanced. Now, the other thing is duplicates. What if I have a bunch of legendaries and I have dupes and I just don't plan on using certain copies of them? Well, in that case, Plarium has also said that in the future, we still don't know exactly when, but there are plans. It is confirmed that there's going to be a better use of your legendary champion dupes in the future. So right now, they're not a whole lot of uses unless you actually plan to use them as a skill book, which I probably wouldn't recommend, or to actually level up another copy of them. It's tempting to use it as food, but trust me, it's just not worth it. Take the one champion space that they're going to take either in your inventory or in your champion vault and hold on to them. And this is why champion storage is so important in this game. Now, speaking of legendaries, that's the case where I would never use them as food under any circumstances, but I would also extend this to epics and honestly even a lot of rares. And this is where storage is power. The more storage that you have, the better you're going to be able to make the decision to hold on to copies of champions. Who knows what uses they might have in the future when it comes to fusions, or if they're going to get buffed, or if that system that they are, planning on having for legendary dupes, what if they also include epic and rare dupes for it as well? So, those of you who are more experienced, you'll probably know which epics are good or not, but this is another recommendation. Those of you guys who are newer, definitely follow along with a lot of guides, videos, and lists out there that kind of tell you which epics and rares are good, which ones you can use as food, and don't make the mistake of fooding champions, using them as food, and then turning out that they're actually a pretty decent champion. So definitely worth talking about quite a bit, because I still see a ton of people message me about possibly using good champions, even legendaries, as food, and it makes me want to both cry and scream a little bit every single time. So that's going to be number one on the list. Now moving on to some more general stuff here. Next up is you never want to lose track of your mailbox timers. I know this sounds a little bit silly, but this is one of those things where it sounds silly, but it could be super easy to just accidentally forget about this and lose some really important stuff. Like especially if you keep energy refills, arena bags, experience boosts, gear from over farming dungeons. Just keep track. See, like for me, I've got 42 days, which is fine. But, once this gets down to below 10 days, a week or so, it can be really easy for me to completely zone out, forget, and then lose a bunch of stuff that's really useful for my account. So just keep track and never lose track of what your timers are for your mailbox. Next up is you never want to lose track of your actual event and tournament milestones. Now, the timers are important, but what I mean by that is you don't want to get yourself in a situation where, for example, if I'm going for the summon rush, right, and I decide to get 2,450 points, and then all of a sudden the timer ends and the event is over. Well, now I just wasted a bunch of points working on this event. I already got the 2,100 points I needed for the epic skill tome, but now I just wasted 350 points going for the legendary skill tome that I didn't end up getting, and now those are just resources wasted. So You don't want to lose track of this stuff. However, whatever system you decide to use, just keep track of the actual timer, keep track of the milestones to get the rewards, and kind of know and plan out what you're going to need to do to reach those milestones so that you don't end up wasting resources that you don't necessarily have to. So that's a pretty important one considering how many events are actually run in this game. And of course, everything that I mentioned about events, same thing applies to the tournaments as well. Next up, let's move into gearing, because this is a big one where it's very easy to make a lot of mistakes, and there are definitely certain things that you never want to do when it comes to gearing up your champions. Now, first up is low star gear, and I would say you never want to upgrade 1 and 2 star gear, and probably most 3-star gear to plus 16. 4-star gear is kind of the point where if it's good, you can easily take it up to plus 16. And 5-star gear is probably going to be the point where if it's good, you can easily take it up to plus 16. But you really want to avoid taking that low star gear to plus 16 because the combination of the actual total main stats, like for weapon, it would be the attack, but also the substat rolls are going to be really, really low. It's just not worth the gold and the investment to take that gear up to plus 16. You're going to replace it really easily. Probably even, if you had like a 1-star weapon that's at plus 16, probably even 4-star weapons at plus 8 or even maybe lower are going to be better than that plus 16 1-star. So you can see how easy it's just going to be to replace that stuff, and it's just not worth it. Now, the exceptions really are like for accessories. I understand because I've been in this situation. Like if you are looking for a very particular, necklace for the demon spawn, you have a demon spawn character and you really need like a crit damage necklace, and you've been farming spider and you just, no matter what you do, you can't seem to get a crit damage necklace. Okay, in that case, sure, you could think about taking a 3-star to plus 16, but this is not something you really want to get used to, and it's only under very rare circumstances. As a generalization, you really want to avoid taking that low star gear up to plus 16. Now, speaking of gear, another big one is flat stats. So you don't have to worry about this for your weapons, your helmets, and your shields because they are always going to roll attack, HP, and defense. But when it comes to your gloves, your chest, and your boots, there's a wide variety of stats that they can actually roll. And you can get a glance at what they are just by, taking a look at this, for example. So we can see what all the stats the gloves roll, what all the stats the chest roll, and what all the stats the boots roll. And you got, for chest accuracy, resist, but then for the different stats, you got HP, you got 2 of them. You have the flat version and the percent version. Flat version attack percent, flat defense percent. And you want to avoid taking the flat versions of HP, attack, and defense to plus 16 because they're quite simply going to be inferior to the percentage versions by quite a bit as well. So you're really underpowering yourself a lot by deciding to commit to gear that has the flat version. So generally speaking, you just want to throw it away. As soon as you see that it rolled one of those flat stats, you just want to toss it. It's just not worth it. There are some very rare circumstances that might be the exception, of course, if it rolls, perfect godly stats and it's a legendary. Okay, sure. There might be a couple tiny little exceptions, but as a wide generalization for almost all 99% of gear, if it's got flat stats on it, you want to just toss it aside and not invest in leveling it up. So, all right. Next up, let's talk about actually equipping the gear on a champion, because this is a really big one, and this is a major mistake that I made, and you never want to just blindly start gearing up champions without taking a look at what type that champion is, as well as the type that the skills are going to be based off of. This is where you can really underpower your champions a lot, and it's going to cost you silver in order, and a lot of time, of course. That's also a big resource, is taking the time to re-equip all your champions, but it's going to cost you both to go back through and kind of redo all the gear. So, you have your champions, say, attack type, but you also have your defense type, your HP type, your supports, and then you want to see, what the skills actually scale off of. So this one says damage based on attack. This is also damage based off attack. So now I know, like, for example, on my chest, I would want to go with attack-based chests in order to get more damage. If I had a champion that instead of attack-based, though it was defense-based, and its skills were based off of defense, then that's the type of gear that I really want to aim for. And if I were to, make the mistake of using attack gear on defense-based champions, you're just really setting yourself back a lot. So don't make that mistake, and always double-check your champions, what type skills they are, the gear that you have, the gear that you're equipping, so you don't really set yourself back a lot. That's a big one that I made, so I really wanted to throw that in the list because this is still something that I'm having to go back through and fix on a lot of champions that I did a long time ago. All right, next up, masteries. This is a really simple one, but obviously an important one. Another big mistake that I made. You never want to work on your masteries until you have a better understanding of what is going to be the best mastery for that champion, as well as what the goals of that champion are. Really importantly, make sure you know not only what is your champion going to be good at, but what are you going to be using that champion for on your account. Is it going to be for the clan boss, campaign farmer, arena? Is it going to be for the dungeons? And the masteries that you pick are really going to reflect that. So you can follow a bunch of different mastery guides, and I know that I have tons of videos up on the channel where I really get into the details of masteries a bit more, but just keep in mind that guides are not always perfect. They usually are tailored for specific causes, so if you are going to be using your champion for something a bit differently than kind of what the mastery guides are made for, you might want to go through and make some changes yourself, but don't blindly just pick masteries because you get one reset for free, but after that it costs hard-earned gems, and don't make the mistake of what I have to do now, go back through a lot of old champions where I went through my free reset, and now I have to pay gems to reset their masteries because they have a lot of really, really bad ones that are setting a lot of my champions back quite a bit. So that's a big one right there. All right, next up on the list is we are actually now going to talk about stuff that involves gems because there's a lot of never do this when it comes to using your gems in this game. And the first one is, I'm going to say, one of the newer features that they actually implemented is the option to unlock mastery keeps that are not currently for the day that they're supposed to be open for gems. And I would say you never want to do this. The only exception would be if you found yourself, like there's a fusion event going on and you don't have enough potions in order to ascend a certain champion for the fusion, and that's the exception, but you can avoid getting into the situation to begin with just by planning things out so you don't end up in that spot to begin with. So you should really never find yourself in this situation. If you do somehow make the mistake of not preparing the fusion very well, and you have to do it to complete the fusion, okay, then you have to do it. But careful planning and preparation will allow you to avoid this, and it's just quite simply, it's just not worth the gems. 200 gems is quite a bit, honestly. That's 5 energy refills. It's 300 for the Void Keep. You can do all your farming normally without spending those extra gems when the keeps open up normally. Now, next up is the marketplace. Now, I would say you never want to refresh the market for gems. I'm not saying don't buy the extra slots in the market that you can. Those are one-time unlocks. You absolutely want to buy those. But the market, it really feels like it's pretty far behind right now. This is something that needs to be updated. They need to add some other stuff, maybe throw in 6-star gear or get rid of the 3-star gear, maybe add rare champions, add energy refills, skill books. There's so much they could do. There's so much potential. But as of right now, it's very rare to find good stuff in the market. It does occasionally happen. You get your monthly ancient shards, but you only get 5 of those a month. Which is why another reason you don't want to refresh. You're not going to see more of those ancient shards by refreshing. Once you've gotten your 5 per month, that is it. And the cost of the gems that you spend by doing this versus, the small possibility of maybe getting a good 4 or 5-star piece of gear, it's just not worth it. Don't refresh the market. All right, next up, we're going to actually go to the shop here. And I would say you never want to even just look at these offers here. They are so bad. Obviously, if you're free to play, you don't even have to worry about this to begin with. But even if you're pay to play, these offers are what I like to say, these are the offers that they put in place for their price anchoring. So these are not good deals. They never are. They just have them in the store to make it so that the other deals and the pop-up offers that they actually show up, they make these ones look better by having the ones in the actual shop look really bad, which is why you completely want to stay away from this stuff. It's terrible value. It doesn't exist, okay? It's just the easiest thing. The only one that's here that's even worth considering is obviously the free stuff, because free stuff is great. But the rookie pack, and even then, it's just, in my opinion, just don't think about it. And the bank too, also same thing here, just don't even think about it. Unless you're a hyper whale, if you go spend thousands and thousands on this game like it's absolutely nothing, you could ignore what I'm saying right here because you've got more money to probably not even watching these videos, but just avoid this stuff. I mean, 5 rare skill books for $10, 2 epic books for $20. It hurts for me to even say this stuff. Never, ever buy silver with gems as well. Oh my goodness. My eyes want to bleed just looking at this. 80,000 silver for 40 gems. Oh my goodness, just don't, this doesn't exist. This tab also does not exist. And when it comes to the actual gem shop here, you know, be careful. I would say only under very rare circumstances buy things like the 1-day experience boost, the small shard pack, because it's just quite simply worse value than the big shard pack. And the one here, it doesn't exist to you. Never ever buy this. The potion pack, just don't do it. It doesn't exist. Don't even think about it. So anyway, I'm going to end things off here. This is one of those kinds of videos where I could easily make a part 2, part 3, maybe even part 4, but we're already at 15 minutes, so of course, plenty of other things you should never do in Raid Shadow Legends. Definitely keep an eye out for possible part 2 and part 3 in the future. But if you guys enjoyed this video and it helped out, consider subscribing to the channel. Feel free to toss a quick like as well. It means more than you can imagine, and more Raid Shadow Legends videos, guides, tutorials, all that fun stuff should be popping up on the screen. Feel free to check them out. Over 230 raid videos on the channel. You can find pretty much anything that you are looking for. And until next time, have a fantastic day. This is Salt of the Salty Guild, signing out.